Welcome to How to Meditate. I have made this video specifically for people who have never meditated before and would like to. That's the one key concept. You have to want to do this. You don't have to have any knowledge, any prior experience, or any special skills. You can learn to meditate just like Leo right here. He does it quite instinctively. And it's really not a process that is made for only specific people who are extra calm or who have lived in the mountains as monks. Meditation is something that all of us can do and engage in. The most important thing to understand, and I think it's something that is really the reason a lot of people choose not to meditate, is that there's a belief that you're trying to achieve something and it's very difficult. So if your assumption is that you need to be still and you need to not have thoughts, or you need to go into a very deep state, throw those ideas out. That is not the case. We're not made to do that. We're made, as human beings, we are wired to think. So releasing thoughts is not an instinctive or reflexive process. It's something that we can learn to do in Western society. If you were raised in the mountains as a monk, of course, I'm sure it's very habitual. But for most of us in 2020, it's not. So the first lesson is really detaching from any outcome, letting go of any expectations. If you can sit down for just a few minutes with the intention of finding some sense of stillness in the mind, you're meditating. So it's that intention to still the mind, not actually stilling it, not actually letting go and not thinking or not seeing God. Doesn't usually happen on your first meditation or your 1000th. But the more you meditate and the more that it becomes a natural process, the easier it is to just fall into stillness. And it actually can help your sleep patterns become more reflexive as well and easier to attain deeper levels of sleep when you have the ability to just sit down and meditate. So the first thing you want to do is find a seat on which you can meditate. So a comfortable seat. I'm on a yoga mat. I have blocks under my knees and I'm sitting on a blanket. So my knees are just slightly elevated above my hips. Find any seated position that works for you. And then the second step is to know that you can move. You do not have to remain still like a mannequin. You can sneeze and cough and wiggle and move. There are no rules. We make the rules. So you'll make your own rules. So join me in a comfortable seat. Detach yourself from outcome. Let yourself just be guided by the intention of finding some level of stillness. Find a comfy seat and let's begin. So gently close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, you're starting to withdraw from some senses, from the visual senses, and you're distracting yourself at least from thoughts that are generated by what you see. So now that you can only experience other senses like sound becomes stronger, and there's a lawnmower outside, and it's okay to hear things. There are always things going on in the room. So just begin to notice and observe. In meditation, we really become an observer. Generally, we focus on one thing, and simple meditation usually focuses on the breath. So just join me to begin to notice and observe the breath. Let's breathe together for a moment. Let's inhale through the nose and exhale out the nose. As we're breathing, go ahead and continue to notice the sounds around you. In the room you're in, perhaps the sounds you're hearing through the audio. My audio, I'm hearing sounds as well. Just become aware of them. Another quality of meditation is lack of judgment. So we don't have to judge we can just notice. So if you hear a sound and it's normally something that might be unpleasant or distracting, just consider noticing it and becoming curious about it without judging it, without having to say how annoying it is or perhaps how pleasant it is. Just noticing it. And just come back to your breath. Focus on your next 3 breaths. I'll guide you through that. So inhale and exhale. Notice how as we inhale, the chest and belly, ribs fill with air. And on the exhale, we release that air. Just one more breath. Again, inhale and exhale. And for a moment, notice if you're having any thoughts or if you had any thoughts while we were focusing on the breath. And as thoughts arise, as they always do while we're alive, just release those thoughts. And there's a process we call tagging. Just tagging the thought instead of starting to get emotionally attached to it or letting it become a chain of thoughts or a story. Just tag it, say, oh, a thought, and release it. Let it fly away and come back to the breath. Come back to this intention of finding stillness. And let's just sit here now for one more minute on your own. Just notice your breath and notice any thoughts as they arise. Notice that you are just an observer of the thought. You're not the thought itself, and you can release it, and you can come back to the breath. And we'll just sit in stillness for just a little bit longer, without knowing exactly how many seconds we have left, not judging, just observing, being curious, breathing. Hearing the sounds around us. Perhaps making our breath louder than the sounds around us. Noticing if by making the breath louder than the other sounds, it makes it easier to focus on the breath. Just observing, not judging. And let's take one more deep inhale and one more long exhale. And gently beginning to open the eyes as we adjust to the light in the room and become aware of the visual senses again. Lots of distractions now. So you just meditated, you now meditate. You can say that you officially now meditate. And that's just the beginning of meditation. That's all it is. Sitting, finding time to attempt to still the mind to whatever extent you can. You've just meditated. Namaste.